The African National Congress NEC meeting wrapped up last night in Boksburg with closing remarks from President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, the party discussed a wide range of problems that are facing the country, and we know that there is no shortage of those problems. Some of them included the collapse of service delivery, power cuts, late payments of social grants, crime, underperforming SOEs, you name them, keep them coming. They were discussed. But let's get some views from political analyst Wayne Sussman about some of the key outcomes from that NEC meeting. Good to have you with us once again, Wayne. What would you say are some of the key outcomes that we as South Africans can take out of the NEC meeting? Yes, a wide number of things were discussed, which are all pertinent in the country. They concern every single citizen. But from your perspective as a political analyst and having watched the political landscape, but also knowing what the pulse of the people is and what the pulse of the ANC is right now as far as what's important, what the rhetoric should be, what is the right thing to say. We're nearing 2024 elections. What do you believe are the key takeouts from this past NEC?
Thank you, Tammy. There are a few things just to focus. And again, whenever we look at what's happening in politics in South Africa in late 2023, we have to have the here and now in mind. But also, as you said correctly, we've got to remember that the 2024 elections is round the corner, 6-7 months away. So that's what we have to bear in mind when we analyse the ANC's NEC. So you had Fikile Mbalula, the Secretary General, complaining, saying, why is the opposition going to Germany to learn about coalitions? We in South Africa need to focus on coalitions and find our own solutions. So that was a particular takeaway, which I can come back to. In your economic segment now, you just focused on rising food prices. There were some ideas that the ANC were going to put pressure on chicken farmers and egg producers to say maybe they need to put the brakes on price rises. All of those are some of the key things, because South Africans are concerned about rising food prices. South Africans are concerned about what's happening in our coalitions. South Africans are concerned about the infrastructure challenges in municipality and failing service delivery. So these are some of the things the African National Congress focused on, and these are some of the things which are going to be key in the road to the 2024 elections.
With the time that we have this morning, perhaps let's talk about the coalitions, because those also have been very practical and very topical. Fikile Mbalula saying that clearly they're not working. Look at Johannesburg. You used Johannesburg, city of Joburg, as one of the major examples there. You used Ekurhuleni as one of the examples where coalitions are simply not working. He was saying that there are instances where a minority party ends up having their candidate as the mayor. Yes, it may be the will of the coalition government, but it's certainly not the will of the people, because if it was the will of the people, they would have voted that party in the first place. Talk to us about how one actually navigates the issue of forming coalitions, especially because what the Moonshot Pact is advocating for, looking at Germany for solutions, actually is quite the antithesis of what Mbalula is advocating for, where he talks about legislation of coalitions moving forward, and how coalitions ought to be run has to actually be in a structured legislative framework.
Yeah, one of the interesting lines which Secretary General Mbalula used was that if there's a scenario where a party falls under 50%, so no party gets more than 50%, the largest party automatically forms the coalition. He said that not all parties see eye to eye, but that party which came closest to the 50% mark should then form a coalition. I wonder whether that is good for the future of our country. I mean, that might suit the ANC in the short term, because we know that in many of the provinces, 7 out of the 9 provinces, maybe 8, including many municipalities in KwaZulu-Natal, the ANC is likely to be the largest party if they fall below 50%. But let me give you an example. It hasn't been a great coalition. It's had many challenges. In Tshwane, the ANC was the largest party. But if you take the numbers of the DA, Action SA, Freedom Front, ACDP, those parties in the Moonshot Pact, they have more numbers, they have more seats. So that was something interesting. And just very quickly on Germany. Germany, there's a very high threshold, i.e. you need to get, I think it's over 7% of the vote, maybe even 10% to get into the Bundestag, the equivalent to the parliament. However, what's key, I think, to learn from Germany is that it takes a long time to sign a coalition pact. In South Africa, we have 2 weeks. You are exhausted after election campaign. I don't think people are making decisions. You're tired, decisions well, there's lack of sleep. And you've only got 2 weeks to get a coalition together. So maybe we need more time. And I think we can sometimes learn from countries around the world about how to structure coalitions better.
Should talks of coalitions actually even happen before the elections, or should these be post-election conversations and decisions to be made?
We can have the conversations before elections, but exactly what you said, the reality of the situation is the talk about coalitions practically matters a lot more after elections, because things can change. Certain parties might do well, certain parties might do less well, so they really only matter the day after the elections.
Your views, Wayne, on the impact that the Moonshot Pact will actually have on the African National Congress and coalitions post-2024?
Yeah, I think in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal and possibly the Western Cape, if the DA slips on some banana peels there, those are the provinces where we might most likely to see the Moonshot Pact. At the end of the day, it's going to be very hard to get the ANC under 50%. On the national ballot, if the ANC does get under 50% under the national ballot, I still think it's got more paths to continue to lead this country than the Moonshot Pact does. But if the Moonshot Pact energizes opposition voters, if it energizes donors, then the part might be greater. Then the outcome might be greater than the components of it, and that will be something interesting to look at. So I wouldn't dismiss the Moonshot Pact in any way, shape, or form. It's easier said than done, but let's see. Maybe they energize voters and donors.
So you think that the impact will be perhaps more impactful on a municipal level as opposed to national?
On the provincial level.
On the provincial level, yes, as opposed to national, clearly.
And that's correct. Remember, Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal are major provinces in South Africa. All 9 provinces are key, but economically, demographically, Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal are massive provinces, and that is what the Moonshot Pact, those 2 particular provinces, they have their eyes set on those.
I'm going to let you go, but I cannot let you go before asking you about the move that we saw yesterday with a former public protector, Sussman, announced now as a member of the EFF. What impact is that likely to have on our politics?
Very interesting question. She becomes the 4th high-profile person to join the EFF. We know him Zwanele Manye recently joined, Fana Mkwena, the actor. So this is really interesting. I'm sure they'll hope that she'll run for Parliament next year. She's not universally loved in South Africa, but there are a lot of South Africans who identify with her, who think that she was a great public protector. And for EFF supporters and for the EFF party, this is another string in their bow, and they'll see this as a positive step for them in the way forward, even though there's some sectors of the population who don't like her at all. I think for the EFF, this is a good move for them.
Is it a win for the EFF? They're likely to get more votes or more supporters because of her than not?
Well, it shows that a high-profile South African, even though her record might be seen as tarnished in some quarters, another high-profile South African has joined the EFF. This gives the party momentum. This shores up the party's radical credentials. It's a fresh face in the party. Remember, Julius Malema has been leading the EFF for a long time. Here he's bringing someone new into the party. I think for the EFF, from their vantage point, it's a good thing.
Is it all fair in love and war if you consider Sussman and Dalim Mpofu now on the same side and in the same team?
Well, it takes a big army to do well in an election, and you're going to need a lot of faces and a lot of personalities to get behind the EFF or other political parties. So I think that's what the EFF had in mind here.
Thank you so much. That's Wayne Sussman, their political analyst, as we take a look at the shifting dynamics in our politics heading up to the elections in 2024.